rise. We'll call the meeting to order and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Miss Doherty.
Here.
Miss Fattacante. Mr. Leahy.
Here.
Mr. Leary.
Here.
Miss Martin.
Here.
Mr. McHugh. Mayor Martin.
Here.
7 present.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is special order of business concerning ratification of a contract for SEIU Local 888, Chapter 159 clerks.
Move approval, Your Honor.
Motion to approve the contract by Ms. Fattacante, second by Ms. Doherty. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, roll call.
Miss Doherty.
Yes.
Miss Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Miss Martin.
Yes.
Mr. McHugh.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
7 yeas, the contract is ratified.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Mr.
I
McHugh.
need to abstain from voting on that, so I'd like to strike my vote.
Okay.
I'd need to
Mr.
vote
McHugh
present.
asked to be recorded as
Present.
present on that vote.
So 6 yeas, 1 present.
Okay, so noted. We have the minutes of the August 15th meeting for approval. Any questions, comments, or
Approval, Your
changes?
Honor.
Hearing none, motion to approve by Ms. Fattacante, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the minutes are approved. Under permission to enter, there are several items. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, recommending entering into the following contracts: Middlesex Partnership for Youth Incorporated, $5,500 to provide trainings for staff on topics including safety, wellness, and bullying prevention. Funding provided by the Safe and Drug-Free Schools Grant. Community Care Services Incorporated, $38,310 to provide for the out-of-district tuition cost for 1 student enrolled in receiving services. Funding provided by the Special Education Tuition Account of the school department budget. The Italian Home for Children Incorporated, $41,386. Again, tuition costs for 1 student. From the school department's Special Education Tuition Account. Research for Better Teaching, $73,500 for leadership training at the high school and K-8. Funding provided by the Title I grant. Lowell National Historical Park, the Songus Industrial History Center, $35,700 for providing courses to enrich student content understanding for our 3rd, 4th, 8th, and 9th graders. Funding provided by the school department, the admissions fees account.
Okay. Motion to approve by Ms. Fattacante, second by Ms. Martin. Any discussion on the motion or any of those contracts? Okay, roll call.
Miss Doherty.
Yes.
Miss Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Miss Martin.
Yes.
Mr. McHugh.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
7 yeas, those items are approved. Next is memorials. We have 3 memorials offered by Ms. Fattacante. First for Natalie Allen Lavoie, mother of Valerie Busby, a special education school psychologist. For Irene Alperin, the mother-in-law of Diane Alperin, the Morey School principal. And Roger Doobie, husband of Pauline Doobie, a retired Title I secretary. If we could rise for a moment of silence and darken chambers in their memory, please. May they rest in peace. Okay, I don't believe there are any items under unfinished business or public participation, so that brings us to the motions. The first motion this evening is by Mr. Leahy. Request that the Subcommittee on Special Education convene a meeting with the Special Education Administrator for discussion on a 3-year plan for the Special Education Department. Discussion should include future programs, goals, and finance.
I'll second this motion, Your Honor.
Second by Ms. Fattacante. Mr. Leahy.
Thank you, Your Honor. This motion I feel is long overdue, and I'd like to, it's basically speaks for itself, but I think as a committee and the subcommittee on special education, we should meet. We need to know where we're heading with our special ed department, what our future programs are going to be, what our goals are, and of course the cost. There is a lot of discussion lately with especially all scales of autism, which is on the rise, and this is something that we should be aware of. This is just one issue, but we do need to sit down as a committee and take a good hard look at our special ed department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved. The next motion is a joint motion by Mr. McHugh and Ms. Doherty. The motion is to request the superintendent provide the committee with a follow-up report on the 2007 scholarship awards that includes, without specific names, a breakdown of award recipients by gender, ethnicity, class standing, income status, and number dollar value of awards given to each recipient. Second by Ms. Martin. Who's going to speak first? Mr. McHugh.
Just briefly, back in June, actually, way back in April, I actually filed a motion that requests the administration provide a report on the criteria used to select award scholarships at Lowell High School, as well as the individuals served in the selection committee. In June, when I was unable to make a meeting, we actually did receive a report, and it was actually, I think, through that subcommittee, just put on kind of hold. So I think this is a way to bring it back. I thought the report was a good report that we originally received, but I still had other questions, and I still think that it didn't identify everything that I was looking for. First of all, as far as, I'd still like to add the board selection. I guess one of my questions would be are those board members the same board members every year that select, or they just get a new crop of people to review these applications that come through, would be one of them. Because they didn't list the positions of the folks. They just said there's Lowell High School staff, some parents, and some other folks. It didn't really quantify who they were. And one of the other things I'm also very interested in is, how do we ensure that anyone that gets a scholarship is actually a legal citizen? Or do we even take that into consideration?
Is actually what?
You know, so I think that that's an important topic for me, is to make sure, I really believe that I want to make sure that the children who should be here have every advantage to get a scholarship if possible. So that was one of the other items I'd like to also look into as well. I still think that we need to get some more detailed information about this. This was a good start, but I think this is something we got to continue to work on over this fall and into the next spring. So with that, I think the rest of it will answer my questions at this time, and I'm not sure if Ms. Doherty has any information.
Thank you, Mr. McHugh. Ms. Doherty?
Really, I just want to add that we are looking for more specifics here. We've got a general outline of the process that high school goes through in selecting recipients. This is asking for a specific breakdown on the students who received scholarships in 2007. And I think we're just looking at a more complete picture of the whole process and the awards. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fattacanti.
Thank you, Your Honor. Since I am somebody who does give, my family and I, we do give a scholarship. I wasn't sure what Mr. McHugh's and Ms. Doherty's motion was all about, because at first I took a little bit of offense and I thought, I have criteria, and they may be very specific and important to my family and I, and maybe the way we pick them might not appeal to people, but it is very specific to us as a family who gets the scholarship. And sometimes it has to do with means. It usually never has to do with grade point average, and it never has to do with what part of the city you're from, but a lot of times it has to do with who you are as a kid, and what that says about you when you write that essay, and what you want to be in your life. So when I
so when I took a little umbrage, so I must apologize about why you had the motion on, because I thought to myself, it takes my brother and I hours, maybe a couple of glasses of wine, but it takes us hours to go through the pile of scholarships that we get, because there have to be about 75 people, young people who are incredibly deserving. What Mr. McHugh does say, however, does make some sense. When my brother and I look at them, we take those types of considerations into consideration, and maybe as a school, system, we should be thinking about that more concisely. So I do favor the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fattacante. Any further discussion on this motion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion is by Ms. Doherty. Request the superintendent provide an update on the status of the committee's request from October 2006 regarding the possibility of broadcasting subcommittee meetings, in particular the feasibility of establishing a high school communications club to videotape subcommittee meetings at the high school on a pilot basis. Second by Mr. Leary, Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's self-explanatory. It was almost a year ago that we originally brought up this idea of being able to videotape our subcommittee meetings. In that time, I've come to realize that LTC is really not going to be a viable option for us right now, because they're tied up doing a lot of the subcommittee meetings for the city. But I happened to run into Jack Pinard this summer at the Folk Festival, and we started talking about this idea, and he pointed out that, which I think it came up at a high school subcommittee meeting earlier too, which we never actually moved on, the idea of having a club where I think it's one of those twofers. We'd get more kids involved in the communications, the television studio, and doing TV production, things like that. And we'd also be able to get some of our subcommittee meetings broadcast, which would, be a service to the public. People could be informed about what's going on in some of these important subcommittee meetings that they're not able to attend physically. So I'm just kind of, by bringing it up again, trying to push it more to the top of the agenda so we could get something going this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leary?
I'm going to support the motion. I think it's a very good motion. It goes in line also with what the committee already approved regarding email for the committee members. What I'd like to do, I don't know how to do this procedurally, but if the maker of the motion would allow, we have the LTC board members, if everybody got their Friday packet, 2 individuals that the superintendent recommended was the aforementioned Jack Pinard and Wayne Marsh. I don't know if Jackie, Ms. Doherty, if you would make a motion to add them add that to your motion, adding those 2 names to be approved to the LTC board, which for the viewing public, it is our responsibility to nominate 2. The superintendent recommends 2 individuals, and we approve 2 individuals for the LTC board. And I know we had discussed this, I guess, in months past, and after good debate and good discussion, I think these are 2 fine individuals that we could add. If that be the maker of the motion would allow that, I'd second it. Or we could just add it to the regular motion.
What does he want to add?
I guess if you could amend your motion, I would. Okay.
It's fine
Okay.
to amend it and adding those 2 people at LTC. I don't have a problem with that.
That would be Wayne Marsh and Jack Pinard.
Madam Superintendent?
Yes, if I could just, on the idea of a video club at the high school is very eager to do this, and they're working on a proposal now, so I expect that for the September 19th school committee meeting, we'll have a very specific proposal, and with some, being able to get that off the ground this fall.
Okay, any,
So it's Wayne Nash and Jack Pinard, right? Is that what you
Correct.
said? Okay.
okay, so, any further discussion on the motion as amended? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None opposed, so the motion is approved
As amended.
as amended. Next motion is by a joint motion by Mr. Leahy and Ms. Martin. The motion is to request to change the assignment policy and allow private parochial school students to be added to the wait list in chronological order. Is there a second? Well, okay, so, motion, okay. Who wants to go first? Ms. Martin. Ms. Martin.
This is actually an issue that had come up quite a while ago when we were discussing some of the issues that arise with families in their, in their dealings with the Parent Information Center and the choices they're making for their children's education. I had been contacted, I know my colleagues have as well, by individuals who are trying to bring their children into the public school system from previously being enrolled in local private schools or parochial schools. The concern that was raised was that for many families, the only option they had were to put their child on a waiting list. They would go into basically the first available school and then have to wait there in anticipation of getting put on the waiting list for the actual school that they were looking to be a part of, whether it was geography or school's focus or whatever reason that the family had chosen that to be their school of choice. My concern was, I think it's counterproductive to have a student enrolled in a private school and make them go through another transition to another school before finally landing where they're hoping to continue their education. And I think that for our students who are enrolled in private schools, to be able to be put on a waiting list, our traditional waiting list, in the same way any other student in our district would be, I think is fair. I want to be clear, I don't think that any of private school students have any rights to preempt individuals who've been waiting on a list, some of whom for a significant period of time. I don't want to, give them in any way any kind of advantage, but I would like us to be able to create a level playing field so that when parents do make that decision that the opportunities offered by public school education are what they want for their children, that we don't impede it in any unnecessary way. It was a discussion that we had, as I said previously, and my colleague, Mr. Leahy, had brought it up once again, and I think it bears our looking at it one more time to see if it is something that we might be able to put in place to inform the Parent Information Center in their efforts in working with families here in our city. And I would defer to my colleague if he has additional information to add.
Thank you. Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. That's exactly everything that Connie said I wrote down here, so I have, the only thing I really wanted to add is I agree with everything that she had said. And my main thing is that, all the parents that live in the city of Lowell are obviously taxpayers and should take advantage of the public school system if, excuse me, if they so choose to. So that was my main, that's why I wanted to bring this up for reconsideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fataconte?
Thank you, Your Honor. I received 3 phone calls from parents who send their children to private school. When they were, in a couple of instances, when they were told that they would have to be on a waiting list to go to their particular school, but they were assigned to another one, they chose not to accept the assignment, even though the school that they were going to be assigned to was an excellent school. So I got the feeling that parents chose not to send their children to public school because they couldn't get the school they wanted. That sometimes happens with children who go to public school now, and yet we abide by that policy. And it's a policy that we have lived with since 1987, and I think it's a policy that I would like to continue to live with. I think it's a fair and equitable policy. Oh, I am so sorry. That is not fair. But that's one of the parents. It's one of the parents. So here's what I would like to do. I would like to see if we could send this to the mayor's task force. It does include a change in the way we assign students currently, and since we are actually having that discussion on the 19th, then can we include this discussion in that larger discussion? I mean, the first of the school year has gone by. None of those parents can be now affected or changed in any way. So I'm wondering if we can then send this motion to that subcommittee, because this would in effect change that policy. And if we're going to have a policy change, then I think that it needs to happen more. I think what needs to happen is more than what happens here. I think that policy change has to be accepted by our guardian ad litem, if you want to call it, the powers that be that we submit our changes to, the Department of Education specifically. So if we could send this policy, because I cannot vote for this, because I don't think it's fair to our public school students who have made a commitment to the public schools here in Lowell. So I cannot vote for this. Maybe if I can have a better understanding, I might change my mind, but I would like to have a far larger discussion, far greater discussion, which I think could take place in your subcommittee, Your Honor.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Mr. McHugh?
Thank you. Actually, I could vote for this tonight. I'm in favor of this. I think it's fair. I think it is fair. To me, if you live in the city of Lowell and you want to send your child to a particular school, what we're saying is you must attend a school, whether it's not your I actually had someone call me regarding this this year. Same situation. They wanted to enroll their child into the Lowell school system, and they told they could not go to their neighborhood school. So they were told they were going to be bused to a school that was a little bit of a distance, and the parents didn't feel comfortable. They said, it's 2 blocks from my house. Why can't I go to that school? And we have these dilemmas. They moved here late. They got here. Its classes are full. And I see that. So now they've decided, I got back to them, and they're enrolling into a parochial school. And then they find out that they wanted to put them on a waiting list, and they can't. So they would have to put them in, and the parochial school is not far from their house, so that's why they chose it. So that's their rationale, what they explained to me, is why they wanted to continue staying in their section of the city, which I can understand. But now, what bothers me is that person can't be on a waiting list. So if next June comes along and says they can come down and try to enroll again, but at that time, all the kids on the waiting list have already chosen. So what we're basically saying is that, yes, you're a taxpayer. Yes, just because you didn't get down here early enough to get your child registered because of your circumstances moving to the city, that you cannot go to your neighborhood school. And I think that's the part that really bothers me with the way the current policy is actually the wording of it. And I think that's something why I think that this child should now be on the list. So next year, whether they're number 10 or number 11, I'm not saying jump the list, but put them on the list wherever they are. If they get the phone call to say, we have an opening for your child at this school now, then they have to make that choice. And if they say, no, thank you, then take them off the list. I think that's the fair way. And if they want to then come back on the list again and try it another year later, that's up to them. But let them deal with that. And all we're doing is maintaining a list of a name of a child and their parents' home phone number to validate. When it comes up, they have the opportunity. So to me, I think it is fair. It's not that they're getting any advantage over anything. If anything, maybe the parent has some choice, or that they decide to send them to school. I'm not saying that they financially can afford it, or maybe they can't. That's, to me, not a rationale. I want every child that wants to come to our schools to come to our schools, but they shouldn't necessarily be forced to go to a school that's not necessarily in their neighborhood if they so choose. We've discussed the neighborhood school issue over and over and over. If a child wants to go to their neighborhood school, it makes sense to me. It saves on busing, too. So, I mean, anything a little bit helps, and any little savings we can gather, to me, is important. So I would vote for this tonight. I have no problem. This has been up and down and beat around the bush enough times that I have no problem taking a vote tonight to adjust the policy so that we can get this where I believe it needs to be, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leary?
Just real quick. Thanks, John. Just quickly, I think I'm going to support the maker of the motion from the standpoint of last meeting we had a motion regarding this issue and other issues, really a reorganization of PIC. In addition, some other issues regarding neighborhood schools, to relook at it. So instead of doing this piecemeal, like vote on this tonight and then go back and look at the whole program regarding how the state looks at it, I think is something we need to really consider. I can understand Mr. McHugh's point. If you're a taxpayer, you should be going to the school that you want to go to. I mean, I can understand that philosophy. But I think what we need to do is not do this willy-nilly. We need to do this all at one shot. We need to have the superintendent bring recommendations as we had requested at our last meeting in August. So I'm going to support Ms. Fedicani's motion. I do support the fact that we should be allowing parochial schools to be on a waiting list. The Hellenic school, for one example, I believe ends in 5th grade. So it's not a question if they can go K through 8 and right into the high school. They're automatically having to make choices to go into the 6th grade at either one of our schools or at one of the parochial schools or another private school. So just from that dynamic alone, I would support the fact that folks who live in the city, pay taxes, should be allowed to be on the waiting list, not circumventing other folks who have been on waiting lists. But I think instead of doing this right now and doing it piecemeal, I would strongly suggest the committee do it as a whole piece of looking at the whole program. In addition, also our reorganization with PIC. I don't know, and someone could correct me, if there's a rush that needs to be done tonight that would circumvent a child on a waiting list from getting into a particular school. I believe it wouldn't. But in saying that, I can understand, and if it is, someone please correct me, but I don't believe it would affect somebody tonight. So I think waiting till we get a comprehensive review of what PIC will be doing in the future and how it will be hopefully ensuring cost savings and efficiencies and maximizing customer service, which I think we all approved at the last meeting. We can also look at, as the mayor's task force is looking at the new Supreme Court decision, we can encompass this as well. So instead, I would encourage folks to take a look at that this is not voting no for this issue, it's just making sure we have a complete comprehensive plan for all these issues. At least we're relooking at it. So I'm going to support Ms. Fedicani's motion. Thank you.
So I think parliamentarily here, your motion is a motion in substitution, and that's a second on that.
Thank you.
Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Ronna. That's actually what I was going to do, is make a substitute motion. I think it's clear that everybody here wants a fair policy, something that works for all our families and our children. And we want every Lowell taxpayer who's entitled to go to our public schools is welcome at our schools. The current school assignment policy is not perfect. I did some research into this idea of just letting private school kids get on the list, and there are some inherent problems with doing that as well, the way the current waiting list works. That, let's say you have your child at a parochial school, but you want to go to the Wang Middle School, which right now the Wang Middle School is pretty much taken by the feeder schools, the Pawtucket Memorial. So you get on the wait list, as would be the right if we made this change tonight. So then you're waitlisted for the Pawtucketville, because that's where your child is an elementary student. When the Parent Information Center calls you and tells you that there's a spot for you at the Pawtucket, you say, no, I'm not going to take that right now. The current policy keeps you on the wait list. You actually stay at a pretty high position. So what happens when your child then gets to the end of 4th grade, and all those students who've been at the Pawtucketville since pre-K, and now a 4th grade is moving to the Wang, and most of those seats are taken by those students, your child is at the top of the list to go from a private school to the Wang. In fact, jumping students who've been before you. So that's not fair either. But the current policy penalizes our parochial school parents. They can't be on the list while they're at a parochial school. So right now, I don't see a solution that's fair for everybody. So I'm going to support my colleague's substitute motion. We need to look at this whole picture in terms of the desegregation issues, that with the Supreme Court changes that have come down, our voluntary compliance with desegregation, how much priority we want to give to that proximity to school, because that does factor in now, but it's a very complicated picture. We cannot fix it, as my colleague said, piecemeal tonight. I think we really need to look at it with the Parent Information Center professionals and with the legal advice to go forward with the plan. And I agree with my colleagues who spoke earlier. The current plan is not perfect. It's not working either. But to just try to fix it with this quick approach, I don't think serves what we're all trying to do here, which is serve all our children fairly. So I'm supporting the substitute motion. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Leahy.
Sure, I just want to add that I support my colleague's motion. I think it's fair, and everybody made good points. We should take a look at this in whole. To me, the question is equity and trying to be fair, and let's not disrupt the lives of our students. You know, the less disruption, the better for them. So that's the whole key here. So I'll support my colleague's motion.
Okay. So roll call then on the substitute motion.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. McHugh.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Substitute motion passes.
Okay. Okay. Next motion then is by Mr. McHugh, and it is to request the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and the Food Service Director investigate possibility of developing a program in coordination with the Lowell Senior Center to feed their members lunch. Second by Ms. Martin. Mr. McHugh.
Thank you. Just in recognizing at the Lowell High School, we have that great restaurant downstairs, and I know some of my colleagues partake quite often in it, and I've never had a bad meal there as well. And sometimes I've gone in, and it appears that it's not always full. It's, you know, there's sporadic. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But the food's great, and I know that we're utilizing the children to, you know, as part of their curriculum to, you know, enhance and learn how to cook and run the restaurant. So my first thought was to actually say, how can we build a partnership maybe with the Senior Citizen Center, who actually provide lunch every day for people. Maybe it's something simple as we just get a bus to bring some folks over once a week or once every other week or something of that nature, that they are willing to come over and sit down and have a nice meal at the restaurant. Maybe they're not aware of the hours and that they could get a relatively you know, great meal for a very low cost. So I think that was one thought, and the other thought I originally started to think spun off from that was there's also the potential of working with the senior citizen to provide lunches over there. Not necessarily maybe through the restaurant. Maybe that's a possibility that they go over there once, maybe in a great while, and I don't think it could be happen all the time, to actually cook over there. Different environment, different group of folks, you know, as part of their, you know, kind of going to a different site and learning how to use equipment somewhere else other than what they have. It might be a great learning opportunity to serve out there at the students, so that, you know, where there's a large number of senior citizens. So that was the other idea that I came up with. And thirdly, as another possibility, was that the possibility, even if something could happen, other communities do it where they actually have as part of their food service program an elderly meals program. I'm not saying a Meals on Wheels, but you could actually send you know, dinners over to, from the standard, you know, kitchen staff, they could send meals over to them in like one spot, and then they could sell them for whatever, it's $1, $1.50, and then those revenues just get put back into the food service account as part of the revolving account, and then can be used as an offset of the cost of putting that together. And the benefit is that senior citizens can take advantage of, again, a decent lunch at a very reasonable price. So, you know, it just, to me, came up as an idea that we have these possibilities, and I'd like to look into that if that's something that could be feasible to work together with them, as well as, especially if we could bring them to the restaurant once in a while, if that's somehow possible that they could partake and take the advantage of that restaurant so it gets utilized to its fullest. So, you know, I'd support my colleagues supporting this motion. Thank you.
We got somebody who's got wheels, so.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion?
It's an excellent motion.
Right.
It's an opportunity to expose seniors to the high school, and I think that would be a great relationship for the kids who are working at the restaurant to have an opportunity to meet some of our local seniors. It's a great idea. I don't know how we would go around working the possibility, but I think it's a great idea for us to see if we could maximize that potential.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion is approved. Next motion is by Mr. Leary and Mr. Leahy to request the superintendent to provide the Lowell School Committee all the programs and resources that currently exist, which are assisting grandparents who are legal guardians for their grandchildren. In addition, provide recommendations to the school committee on how we can provide additional programs which will ensure both cost effectiveness and successful resources to the grandparents. Who's going to speak first?
Just quickly,
Mr.
this is a
Leary.
motion that Mr. Leahy and I put together, derived from conversations we've had with Lynn Brown-Zunis over at the Senior Center and our own Constance Martin, Lowell School Committee person at CTI. I think this is an area folks really don't generate much knowledge because we don't understand that grandparents are starting to take care of their children as parents. So I think this is something where we need to as another customer of ours, as we look at customers through PIC, this is another area that we need to address and make sure that we're addressing our customers' needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leahy?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just briefly, as my colleague said, we're just looking for any way that we can assist this niche now, grandparents that are taking care of their grandchildren. It's just something that we're aware of, and we need to just make sure that we have resources for these particular people. Thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. Just because I know of an existing program, I know that there is a Grandparents as Parents program that's in place. I believe it's through Catholic Charities of Lowell, who I know are very specifically working with this group. And it would be great to enlist them and get them more involved and more plugged in with our schools, where this would be such a huge need. So I would, just as you're pulling together this information, I think that would be a great place to start.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Next motion is by Mr. Leary. Request the superintendent provide the school committee a report outlining overtime expenditures as an aggregate number for the preceding school year. Second by Ms. Doherty. Mr. Leary.
Just quickly, too, and I'd like to add to my own motion, if we could take a couple of years in a row, if we really look at the past 3 years, there's really no way of looking at 1 year to get an idea as to how we're really looking at overtime. Is it going up? Is it going down? Not just for certain individuals. I'd like to look at the school system across the board, anywhere where we're spending overtime. It's something, obviously, we're responsible for the budget, getting a good idea early in terms of the past 3 years. Are there trends, certain times of the year? Certain locations within the school system that are generating that. Obviously, this will generate more questions, or it might just be simple. This is obviously, we do cleaning of floors in August. This generates more time. So it's more like just a basic prep for the budget in the following year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None. The motion is approved. Next are subcommittee reports. The first report is on the Lowell High School Subcommittee, a report and approval of the minutes of August 16, 2007. Ms. Doherty.
Thank you, Your Honor. The high school subcommittee met on August 16th. Members from the school committee include myself, Regina Fatacanti, James Leary, John Leahy, Connie Martin, Mayor Will Martin, and Kevin McHugh. Everybody was there, including from central office, the superintendent, Jean Franco, interim deputy superintendent, and Jay Lang, assistant superintendent, as well as a headmaster was there, Bill Samaras. He's not on my list, but I know he was there. And members from the Lowell Plan subcommittee on the high school, including Pat Crane, Rick Heller, Paul Mayotte, and Mark O'Neill, as well as Jim Cook, who's the Lowell Plan executive director, and Adam Backey, the deputy of planning and development. Basically, we had one agenda item for this meeting, and that was to discuss the Lowell High School Facilities Report. That was a coordinated effort between the high school, the Lowell Plan, and the city's Department of Planning and Development, which I know my colleagues all got a copy of this report. It was very comprehensive, very impressive professional report that looked at, first of all, what we have for space at the high school, the facilities we have at the high school, and then compared it to what the state recommends we have for facilities, based on the population of our students. I'm not going to go over the whole report. I don't remember it anyway, but a couple of things that stood out in my mind was the library space is half what the state recommends for a school of our size. The special education rooms were even worse than half, if I recall. And of course, the science labs are lacking in terms of what our students need. Although I think most of this was not new to the committee, we are aware of the challenges we face in terms of space at the high school. Much of that was brought out during the reaccreditation committee's report. It was interesting to see it actually lined up against state standards, though, and to see how we managed to still do well. That one of the pieces of the report that also really interested me was they compared Lowell High students' performance on state tests with students from other similar urban school districts, and found that we were holding our own, even though we didn't have top-rated facilities as some of these other schools did. This was the first step in really looking at what we need at the high school and how we might get closer to providing what we need in terms of physical space for our students. Basically, what's prompted the whole discussion was the question, can we do what we need to do for Lowell High students in the 21st century in the physical plant we've got? The next step is to now have the high school, and using their small academies grant, whatever, it's something like that, come up with some suggestions to bring back to the subcommittee about what they see are some real needs and changes in programming that they might want to go towards that would impact facilities and the functions we need our facilities to perform. So there was a motion by Ms. Fataconti, seconded by Mr. Leary, to take the report under advisement, refer to the whole high subcommittee for further review
We're done.
with the administration's recommendations on priorities for the next step action. So basically, the administration is going to get back to us with some recommendations, and we'll take that under advisement. And that was the motion. I don't know if anybody else would like to add something, because everybody was there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Any further discussion on the report? Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. I just wanted to add that at the meeting, I thought the report was good, but I did want to emphasize that I thought it was, it's good to be working with that department, with DPD. I think it's long overdue, and I don't want to be critical. I just want to say that it's great that we've started this. It's something that the department should be working with the schools, because as the years go by, the needs of our schools change, and we're part of the city, and we should be keeping an eye, or we should be in contact with each other. So we should have constant communication on what our needs are as a school system and what our needs are as a city. So I'm glad that we have this dialogue, and I hope we continue it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy. Any further discussion on the subcommittee report? Motion to accept the report by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next subcommittee report is the curriculum subcommittee report of the meeting earlier this evening. Ms. Martin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We did convene a meeting of the curriculum subcommittee just prior to the beginning of this meeting this evening. We had a single discussion point, which was to discuss the superintendent's request to participate in a China exchange program. This was discussed at our last school committee meeting 2 weeks ago. The committee had expressed some concerns and some requests for additional information, which the superintendent did provide us with, both in writing prior to this evening's meeting, and also, of course, during the subcommittee as well. I think that we had an opportunity for really all the committee members to ask their questions, get them answered, and I think we're all better versed on the scope and the substance of this opportunity for our superintendent. There were a number of discussions that I think lead us as we sit here now to make the decision. There was a motion made at the subcommittee. The members of that subcommittee being myself, Mr. Leary, and Ms. Doherty, and there was a motion made by Ms. Doherty to approve the superintendent's request to participate, seconded by Mr. Leary for the purposes of discussion, and it was passed 2-1 that we make the recommendation to the full school committee that we collectively approve the superintendent's participation in this program. I know that a number of my colleagues have some additional insights and opinions that they'd like to voice before we do take the final vote on whether to approve the subcommittee's recommendation. I would just like to say in starting that I think that this opportunity is one that really can have an extraordinary impact in our district. The idea of being able to have an educator come from China to whether it's starting in Boston, traveling to Washington, and then spending a significant amount of time, 5 full days, touring Lowell itself, our schools, our classrooms, the real, the place where really you get the true flavor and the true, the most valid impressions of what education means here in the city of Lowell, I think will be of great benefit throughout our district at every level. So I support the superintendent participating in this program. I do think it has the kind of depth and breadth that really will significantly impact the quality of education. and I think that it's something that we are wise to take advantage of for our district as a whole. I know that there are some recommendations and some ideas that other committee members had brought up in terms of how we build this into our evaluation process for the superintendent. I'll let those members bring those ideas forward because I think they have great merit, and I will certainly support them when we get to that point in the discussion. But again, for myself, I certainly support this and put that forward as a record of the meeting, and then would make the motion officially that the subcommittee would recommend this approval of this request from the superintendent, and it would require, I guess, a second, and then the full committee can discuss.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Anyone, you want to do that now and make the motion now? Or you want to hear
That's
from
what I would
others?
recommend.
Well,
I'm
why don't we
assuming-
hear what other people have to say about the subcommittee report?
That'd be great.
Anyone else? Ms. Fataconte.
I would like to bring up 2 points that were addressed at the subcommittee. One was the interest of learning how the Chinese teach science and math. Let's be very clear about the differences between culture and society in China and culture and society in the United States. The Chinese society is a homogeneous society. They have one group of people, the Chinese. We are not in any way a homogeneous society. We have in Lowell, 60 ethnic groups with different cultures and values and different opinions. We don't teach the same way. And I don't want to be China, because I think that the way we teach here in the United States creates a far more interesting student, creates a far more creative student. And I don't want to lose that, so I don't want to bring back some technique from China which no longer allows our students here in the United States to assume that same creativity. There's a longer school day in China. Students go to school over 8 hours. They do not participate in extracurricular activities the way our students do. And again, I think you need to look at what that benefit is to our students. Because they don't go to school for 8 hours, they play sports, and they study music, and they learn how to draw. And they become, again, far more creative people, not forced to be creative, but be creative of their own measure. So I think that when we look at, and we're all excited about how the Chinese teach math and science, we need to recognize that our culture is very different than theirs. And I, for one, am very glad about that. The second point is that the Madam Superintendent gave us information about the Cambodia trip and why that did not prove to be fruitful. I believe that there are, in this community, substantial members of the business community who are Cambodian, substantial members of the educational community that are Cambodian, that the superintendent could have worked with if we truly wanted to create this kind of exchange. The superintendent said that she basically relied on others, but if she truly was committed to the concept of this cultural exchange, then why didn't we just do it here? Why wasn't the Lowell School Department and Madam Superintendent the impetus when others could not be? She discussed that one person had fallen ill and it didn't get off the ground. Well, we could have picked up the slack here. Absolutely. We have certainly enough dedicated individuals within our school system where we could have created what the National Park System was looking to create. We could have done that here. We certainly have enough talent, and we certainly have enough dedicated people. The business community would have also been involved. So I think that to say that the Cambodian trip was not successful because of 9/11 or because somebody got sick is an excuse, because we could have done it ourselves, and I don't accept the excuse. I cannot vote for the superintendent to go to China. Here's another reason. Madam Superintendent, when we brought this up at the last meeting, you said you were thinking of teaching Chinese in Lowell Public Schools. Nowhere in this document do I see that. So I have to question, again, your commitment to furthering the Chinese language. That, in and of itself, to discuss another language, and it might be, I just glanced at it, but to bring up the discussion of teaching another language is a year-long discussion. You can't go to China for 2 weeks and then come back and say, we're going to teach Chinese now. It just doesn't work that way. When we added the Khmer language to our system, it was a year-long discussion of the benefit of teaching that language. I would expect that if you were going to introduce the Chinese language into the curriculum, we would have that year-long discussion. It's not a 2-week discussion. I asked the superintendent if she would take vacation time, and she tonight responded to one of my colleagues that she felt that her concession was that she was getting another funding source. Getting another funding source is great, but I still cannot send the superintendent on our dime. I just cannot do that. I just cannot. I just think that there is no guarantee, even though she proclaims that there is a guarantee that this is a better program than the last one, there is no guarantee. And the superintendent's job is to be here in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? Mr. Leary.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I'm the individual on the curriculum subcommittee that voted no on this particular issue. And I do this, I first want to start off by thanking the superintendent for providing us elaborate information at the request from our last meeting, where I made a motion to request that additional information. I thought it was informative. I thought that there are positive aspects of this program. There were a lot of questions from me regarding specifically terms of the development of it. And I think the development of the program, I think that the superintendent would agree, it's very fluid. And to illustrate, I think that what the next meeting is going to be on, I think September 21st or 24th, I remember the date, where you'd be going to meet other individuals, other systems that would be involved. And we really weren't familiar with what those systems would be. And as that dialogue continued, I asked a question of the committee, and I actually made a motion, had a second from Ms. Martin regarding a compromise. And the compromise wasn't regarding vacation schedules, because the more that I read this information and the more that I thought about it, the vacation issue really wasn't appropriate for this type of discussion. I thought, however, it was appropriate that this discussion included not just a superintendent or a chief administrative person within the department would have to go, that any particular individual with the experience or curriculum knowledge would be of benefit. And I think that the other schools listed, and there's quite a few schools that perhaps would take in the program, be it Acton, Boxborough, Andover, Barnstable, Boston, Danvers, even mighty Gateway Regional out in the Berkshires, which I just had to get that in there because it just excites me that they're actually participating in something. I think that many of them are sending principals and other types of personnel. So as a compromise, I suggested that we partake in the program because there are positive benefits. One of the positive benefits is you do want to know other cultures. To suggest that we don't want to understand another culture, I think is not a positive thing. Look at where we are right now with the Middle East. Just that example alone, I think we need folks who understand that culture. Not that we agree with it. Quite frankly, the culture might be an enemy of our culture. We need to know this at a local level, not just at a higher level, be it the federal government. I think local government and folks would benefit from this. The part that I couldn't get around was that there's a lot of time out and a lot of time involved. And I didn't feel, in my opinion, in all due respect to the superintendent, I'm not questioning her work ethic at all. I think she's, her job, I couldn't do her job. And I don't say that facetiously. It's a tough job when you're managing 2,000 employees, 14,000 students. Superintendent, 23 schools, not to mention the alternative schools. We don't agree on a lot of general philosophical issues, but one area we do agree is that you're committed to the Lowell Public Schools. In saying that, in my opinion, I felt that we have other individuals, be it the assistant superintendent of curriculum, the principal, the headmaster at the high school, the foreign language department individual at the high school. These are just quite names off the top of my head. Folks in the middle schools that would provide benefit as well. So while I respect my colleagues, this is a difference of opinion, and I will be voting no in terms of sending the superintendent. However, I would acknowledge that there are issues here that would be of some benefit. I want to address one final thing regarding risk. Risk is everywhere. I mean, I own my own business. I mean, I can take as much time off as I want. I get the risk of not eating. So sometimes you got to throw some stuff out there. I don't think we need to send the superintendent. I think, with all due respect, we need to really be focusing on the schools here. At the same time, I acknowledge that we need to be thinking globally and more holistically. So I'm going to be voting no on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. I just want to add that after careful consideration for this, that I can see the benefits for education here. Anything that we can learn. We are in a global economy now, and some of the words that people have spoken tonight, global education, opportunity education, and that's what we're here for. We were selected, as far as I can see, because we are a unique school system here. We have opportunities, the University of Massachusetts right up the street, Middlesex Community College. So we have a lot to offer in Lowell. As far as I'm concerned, I respect what my colleagues have said, but I think if someone's going to go, I would send the superintendent. She would be my choice. So I am going to vote for this. We had good debate tonight over it, but I think that as far as I'm concerned, I can see the educational benefit, and I will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McHugh?
Yes, when this came around the last meeting, I did raise the questions about, I do see a value. I see the value of looking outside the box, looking at what the success are. I know my colleague felt that math and science, yeah, they have longer days, yeah. I'd like to know what teaching strategies they're using. What programs are they offering? Sometimes you need to go outside your community to see what others are doing to be successful. If we put blinders on and just sit here and look what we're doing, sometimes you're going to make some improvements, but why not to take go look at somebody who's doing something very well? In business, if your competition's doing something very well, boy, you're trying to find out what they're doing correctly so that you can find out and make yourself a better and compete with them as well. So I'm open to the concept of going to another school district, and this one just happens to be, I guess a far distance away, which is going to take some time. But I think we need to investigate that. We need to find out. I'm more concerned about the curriculum aspect. To me, that is the important part. That's why I'm here. I want to make sure every child in the city of Lowell has the best opportunity to get the best curriculum possible to advance themselves. I'm not in favor of teaching Chinese. That's not why I would like to see our superintendent go. I want to know, what are they doing in math and science for teaching strategies? And maybe the equation is they're going to school 8 hours a day. Maybe that's a big part of it. Maybe it's larger blocks. But what are the strategies they're using to teach that? What part of the curriculum maybe we're not doing? So I think we need to be looking at those type of ideas to bring it back. And at the subcommittee, I brought up a point. I said, if there really is, this is an important trip, and the superintendent really believes that there's going to be a connection here, I think that I made a suggestion that we tie it to our goals. That way, there's a tangible outcome out of this. Because I raised the question as well as, what if, the way this is set up, when they come here from China in the fall, and all of a sudden you just don't see that connection? Is the opportunity there to back out of this trip? And I was told yes. And I says, I'm glad to hear that, because if it's no value, I don't want to be sending somebody to another country for 2 weeks to come back and say, well, that was great, but there's nothing we can bring back to the Lowell School Department. So before we go to that final step, I wanted to ensure that there was going to be some value, and we're going to get some outcomes coming backwards, and not just a presentation. What are the tangible things that we can bring back to make the Lowell school system a better school system? Now, I know that's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight, but I think as part of that trip, we could have a report that's going to show what are the curriculum items that we're going to be taking forward into the next school year to present and start to make the school system excel in math and science. I think we're heading in the right direction. Sometimes it takes just a couple of outside facts to kind of give it that little boost to push it up the curve a little faster, and that's why I'm open to the idea. But I would only do this if this is going to be tied to the goals. If it's not tied to goals, I can't vote for it. So if the maker of the motion would amend a motion that we actually tie the outcome as well as part of the goal structure, I would definitely be in favor of that. Otherwise, I really could not support it.
Okay.
No, I
We
think it
we
would be
still don't
great
have
to-
any motion yet. But
Well, didn't we, I'm sorry, I thought I had made a motion to accept the recommendation of the
Suspension
subcommittee.
of the rules.
Well, I'm being told we need to suspend
Suspension
the
of
rules to do
bring a
that.
motion.
I don't,
However
it's
you,
not on the
however we
agenda.
need to do it is fine.
motion to suspend the rules to consider this item by Mr. Leary, second by Ms. Martin.
Sure.
All those in favor of that motion? Any opposed? Okay, so the rules are suspended in the motion now then, Ms. Martin, is to adopt the recommendation of the subcommittee with the caveat, as Mr. McHugh added, that.
Exactly, to
that-
add that there
that-
needs to be a goal component
Right,
as part of
that there be goals developed
Exactly.
regarding this exchange. And
Exactly.
the superintendent's goals, okay. Any further discussion on this? Ms. Doherty?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to support this motion. The way I look at it is, our superintendent has been invited to participate in a China exchange program. 9 other communities across the state have been included, communities such as Boston, Weston, and Lowell. I think it's an opportunity for our district to not only exchange ideas about educational systems, but to really broaden our horizons. We are living in a global marketplace. And I think that the superintendent is the right person to go. She leads the district. She's the best person to see the big picture and to be able to look at the ways to make meaning of her experience and transfer those experiences into opportunities for our students. I'm not concerned about the time off because I think she's going to take care of the job. She does this. She's got a work ethic that's been demonstrated time and again. We're not looking at cost for the district. We're looking at giving her 2 weeks' time, which one of those weeks is over April vacation. So I feel that it's an opportunity that this committee should support, and I would support that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty. Mr. Leahy, I have a few things to say. Would you mind coming up?
Your Honor.
Okay. Actually, this is not all that difficult a decision for me. I do think that there's value in Lowell being selected as a participant from across the state with 10 other school districts. I happened to read in the Sunday Globe last week, or I guess it's August 24th, maybe it's a week and a half ago, about a China program for Massachusetts high schoolers that go and actually live in China and stay with a family. And I just want to read 2 brief sections of that. It says, intent on giving their graduates an edge in the workforce, public high schools across the state are sending students to China, where they live with host families in high-rise apartments and study alongside Chinese peers in crowded classrooms, experience a country in a way tourists rarely do. And then the article goes on to say, most students travel to China in the past decade through private exchange programs. Now, about 20 Massachusetts high schools, primarily in affluent suburbs, have or intend to design their own programs for groups of students and teachers. Now, I don't know if this trip will lead to a similar opportunity for students in Lowell, but maybe it will. Maybe it will lead to something that is going to redesign how the way we teach math and science. We hear week after week, China's churning out 500,000 engineers a year. I don't really believe that number, but why not take the opportunity to see it firsthand? So I don't know. And is this going to lead to maybe some Chinese language instruction in our system? I don't know, because there's no off-the-shelf, here's what you do when you go to China. If we knew what you did, we would have done it already. But this is a unique thing. This is a change in the world. It's a change that we've been asked to participate in and observe and use to our advantage for our students. Why should we leave the opportunities only to people in affluent suburbs? So the only difficult thing, I think, about this is that the superintendent's going to be out of the district. One of those weeks is the vacation week, so I don't think that's a big deal. It is troubling to some extent if there are crises that develop, that the superintendent won't be available, but we're going to have to make sure that those issues are dealt with, and there's going to be some communication in place in case something does come up. So I think this is a valuable thing for Lowell. It's not going to cost us any money. That's going to be funded by other sources. The only expense is the superintendent's salary, which we're paying already, and I think could lead to great things for the city. So, again, I'm going to support this. I think could lead to some very valuable things for our students, and if it turns out to not have done that, we've lost a week of the superintendent's time that I'm sure she's more than made up for in the many nights that I've seen her working down on Merrimack Street.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, so roll call on the motion. Seconded by Ms. Dory. Roll.
Yes.
You can do it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
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 6 yeas, 1 nay, approved.
No, I voted no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please record me as a no.
So it'll be 5 yeas, 2 nays, approved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that, I believe, concludes the subcommittee reports. The next item on the agenda are reports of the superintendent. First item concerning school opening, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, I just wanted to report that we had a very smooth opening to school. Doesn't mean everything was perfect, but it was an exceptionally smooth opening. And you have a report from me. I'd like to just offer a couple of highlights. We made use of the voice messaging software program, the ConnectEd program, where we can communicate with families tied into our student database system, and we can communicate in the language of the home, so that we were able to use that system several times in the summer to remind families of when school was starting and the need to come to Parent Information Center. This is for the elementary and middle school youngsters. The high school was able to use it. So we were able to communicate through the summer in a much more systematic way than in the past. And it resulted in a much steadier flow of families through the Parent Information Center and to the registration center at the high school, so that it reduced that very late summer first week of school crush that often contributes to a lot of confusion at the start of school. So we just didn't see the long lines that are typical on Kirk Street outside of Parent Information Center. So that's a major using the tools of technology to I think help create a smoother opening. Grades 2, 7, and 8 are where we are having our highest enrollments, but the rest of the grades are solid, and we're at or below our class size guidelines in the other grades, and 2nd, 7th, and 8th, we're right about at the guideline, just slightly up in several schools. In transportation, Mr. Dakota has worked with the bus company, and all of our buses are now equipped with the GPS system and digital video systems. And he's able to, from his desk, know where every bus is, exactly where it is in the city in real time. And we do think this is going to be a real help for dealing with delays, as well as dealing with any concerns about student safety, about late buses, whatever. He'll be able to have that information at his fingertips. For some families, the change in the minimum distance from elementary to middle school, in the elementary are youngsters have to live 3/4 of a mile or more from school in order to be eligible for transportation. When they get to middle school, it jumps to 1 3/4 miles. That's a sudden shift for a lot of families, and some families didn't know about that. Somehow they were surprised about that as school started. And so we know we make our list this time every year. We make our list about things to fix for the next year, things to do differently. And that's one of the things that we'll do differently next year is a special notification for families of 4th graders to let them know about that change. And we think that will help families, again, make choices earlier in the summer when there are more choices to be had. It was a great test of our system yesterday when we started preschool, started kindergarten, and opened our schools as polling places. And it was surprisingly smooth by all reports. Our biggest challenge has been the change in traffic patterns needed around the Morey School to accommodate the construction that's going there and the loss of parking places. But families are cooperating and learning the new patterns, and we have a very good change in bus patterns, so that we're really quite confident about safety of children there. In food services, as a result of some of the questions and suggestions raised by school committee last year, we've expanded the lunch menu at all of our elementary and middle schools that have kitchens, which is most of them, but not all of them. There are now, youngsters have 3 choices for each lunch: a hot, a cold, and a salad. And the early returns, we don't have much data yet, but the early returns are that that's getting a favorable review in the schools. I'll be reporting at the next meeting more on this next section, but we filled 80 teaching vacancies for 2007, 2008, and all but one of the positions we had was filled. All but one were filled with qualified teachers by the opening day of School for Teachers, which is the best we've done ever, that anyone can remember, of getting all the positions filled. Sue Mulligan, Assistant Superintendent for Personnel, who could not be here tonight, reports that she expects fewer than 20 waivers will be needed to be requested of the Department of Education, which again is down from about 3 years ago, 120 waivers. So we're, through the really hard work of everyone in the personnel office, at the building level, department chairs at the high school, people have been really working at hiring since January and right up through the summer. And so I'll report more on that, but it's a major accomplishment and is key to a smooth start of school for kids. This summer, committee has seen a report of some of the facilities and maintenance work that's been done, besides, of course, the start of the Morey construction project. Out of Mr. Lang's office, we arranged for the removal of the modular classrooms, the installation of new doors at the Daly School for safety, installation of an energy management system at the Shaughnessy and Butler schools, and some other steps to increase cost savings where we can have them and increase safety, as well as the custodians who did a very good job of doing the classroom moves and the cleaning among the schools. The schools looked really ready for the kids and ready for the staff when they opened. We completed our major purchases and installations, and you have those in the report. We're particularly excited about the updated investigations mathematics material. That's our kindergarten through grade 5 math program. We were able to secure the updated version, which we're very excited about because the same issues that that we saw of certain gaps in the program, particularly around issues of kids developing fluency with math facts, are addressed better in this updated program. So teachers are very excited about having those new tools. So I think one of the lessons that we've learned is that we've made some major strides in using technology effectively to help smooth the opening of school, and we've got our list already for what we're going to do, start doing next spring around scheduling and assignments and communication with families, so that we see an even stronger start for the following year. So people worked hard this summer, and it showed in our first week of school.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Any questions or comments on that report? Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. Through you to Superintendent, I'll just go right down the list. So the information in this report is good. And I know working at PIC, it's not an easy job, so we want to thank all those people down there. The food services, that was a couple of motions by a few committee members last year, so my kids thank you, and Mr. Lang for the improvements. Much better selection this year, they've already told me. So I'm glad to see that's working smoothly. And then the other thing I did want to touch on is I'm glad at the end of the report you put the challenges that lie ahead because, again, the clerk schedules at the high school, I know they can get a bit frustrated here at the beginning of the school year, and they're working very hard to get all those schedules make everybody's accommodations. So, we do need to work on that, and you put it right here on the list. So thank you very much, and it looks like, it was a good opening for this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Motion to accept the report, place on file by
Motion to accept.
Ms. Fedicante, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor say
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next report concerns administrative hiring. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, at the last school committee meeting, the committee asked for a fairly comprehensive report on administrative hiring. You asked for a report on paraprofessionals, the career ladder program for paraprofessionals, the administrative apprentice program, and then also all of the administrative hires done over the last several years. So you have several reports that we've prepared. Assistant Superintendent Mulligan prepared a report on the career ladder in which she identified that there are 27 former paraprofessionals who were able to go through the career ladder program, earn degrees and certification as special educators who are currently working as special education teachers, elementary, middle school, and high school in Lowell, who completed what you've heard of as the COSTEP program that we've run in collaboration with Middlesex and Fitchburg State College. The funding for that program is ended, but we have been able to secure the support of the Hampshire Collaborative, which is another collaborative, which is able to provide no-cost courses for paraprofessionals who have completed bachelor's degrees but who are not certified, and they get a free education to earn special education certification. And there are already 3 graduates of that program who have earned their certification, so they've moved from paraprofessional to special educator position. So one of the reasons that we're able to fill all the teaching positions is that one of the most hard to fill and volatile areas of our staffing 5 years ago was in special education, that's where the largest number of our vacancies were. Those were a lot of our last minute vacancies were in special education. And by growing our own, 30 of those positions are now filled by paraprofessionals, and that is an area of our staffing that has really stabilized over the last several years. So should I ask any questions on the paraprofessional report? Okay. On the administrative apprentice program, you have the report that we had through year before last, we had 10 apprentices in a program that we started ambitiously in 2002, 2003, and then we had to cut back a lot when we faced cuts. But of the 10 apprentices that went through that first phase of the program, 5 are currently administrators in Lowell. And from the report you had, I gave you a copy of a report we had done in September of 2006, and I'm sure you noticed that 2 of those 5 are now principals. They had first been assistant principals or acting principals, and now 2 of them are principals. 3 are currently administrators outside of Lowell. 1 of the 10 has resigned for medical reasons, and 1 remains on the faculty. And you've got an update on the 14 people on the staff who are in the current apprentice program. And if there are no questions on that, I'll go right to the report that Assistant Superintendent Duggan prepared on the administrative hires since July of 2000. And so all of the positions that have been filled since 2000 are identified with their current occupant, and whether those are promotions, whether they're a Lowell resident, or whether they were raised in Lowell. And just want to comment that in looking at that, there's there's one slight correction that Ms. Mulligan wanted to make, and that is that the last appointment under the assistant principal page should have been identified as a promotion. That was inadvertently left as not as a promotion. But it identifies that 82 of our current administrators have been named to their current positions since July of 2000. 54 of those, or 66%, have been promotions from within the system. 75% of the central office administrators, of all the central office administrators, assistant superintendents, and the other central office administrators, 9 of the principals, 14 of the assistant principals, which is 74%, and 72% of the high school administrators. And I thought it was not in the report, but I thought it would be helpful for the committee to know, and I think most of you know this, the administrative hiring procedures call for a panel of people who review the credentials of all applicants for positions. And the panel consists of 2 people, 2 teachers appointed by the United Teachers of Lowell, 2 people appointed by the Lowell School Administrators Association, central office administrator, 2 parents, if it's a school-based position, and a representative of the community. At a minimum, that's who sits on each panel, and each panel is chaired by someone from central office. So it could be an assistant superintendent, it could be the director of mathematics, it could be a district support specialist. So it's a central office administrator chairs the panel, and the panel then sends forward to me typically 3 finalists. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 4, but typically 3 finalists of people that they believe are the most qualified of that pool for the position. Then I interview the finalists typically with more than one other administrator. If it's an assistant principalship, we'll interview with the principal plus typically another principal from the district. If it's a central office position, I'll interview with one of the assistant superintendents and someone else. So there are always several people that I interview with, and then ultimately the appointment. If it's a high school administrator, often I interview with the headmaster. In some cases, I delegate to the headmaster position there as well. But so this is the report. I hope that it answers the questions you have. I wanted to also point out that among the principals, which is the lowest percentage of promotions from within, we've had 9 assistant principals apply for principalships since 2000. 6 of the 9 assistant principals who applied got the positions they were applying for, so 6 of the 9. And 1 assistant principal who did not get the principalship lost out to another internal candidate. The 2 who did not get the positions applied for only 1 position and did not get that. Another candidate was appointed. But I thought that would be helpful for you to know, because of course the most natural stepping stone to the principalship is an assistant principalship. And so I thought you'd want that information, because that wasn't available right from this report. So I'd welcome any questions from committee members.
Ms. Fedicante?
Thank you, Your Honor. When you indicate here Lowell resident, how many of these people became Lowell residents upon receiving their positions?
I don't know. I don't know how many. I know several.
Because when we met with the principals, when they had a little gathering, several of them said to me, "Oh, I've moved to Lowell. They had not lived in Lowell, knew nothing about Lowell, but got the job and then moved to Lowell."
Yes, there are several principals that have done that.
So to me, that doesn't count.
Okay.
Why wouldn't it?
Well, because they were, the issue that we were raising was how many people get promoted from within. That was one of the questions. Clearly, those people did not get promoted from within. The second was how many people were, well, I guess the basic line, how many people were promoted from within? I don't so much care if you live in Dracut or Chelmsford, that's okay. But how many people got promoted from within? And some of these people were not Lowell residents when they got their positions. They stated that clearly to us during that evening. So while you can check off that they are a Lowell resident, they weren't when they got their position. And there's about 3 or 4 that are in that category. Thank you.
Ms. Doherty?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to say I was really pleased with this report because I know there have been some accusations flying around, and I really wanted to see what the facts would show. And I think that the facts show that we are doing a decent job of promoting within. If you look at the central office staff, 100% of all the people who are directly report to the superintendent were promoted from within. The administrative staff, 67%. The principals, 45%. The assistant principals, 68%. Those numbers, to me, seem to defy that there's any reality to that myth. Then the other component to the rumors or the accusations going around was that we don't hire Lowell people. Well, I would respectfully disagree with my colleague's comment that people who move here don't count. I think the better for us if we get professionals who come into our schools, not only do they want to work and educate our children, but they buy homes here. They move to Lowell. They show their commitment to the community by becoming Lowell residents. And when you look at the numbers of those who live in Lowell or those who are raised in Lowell, again, you have very high numbers. Central office staff, 50% of the central office staff live in Lowell. 75% of the central office staff were raised in Lowell. The principals, again, 35% live in Lowell, 15% were raised in Lowell. I think those numbers, to me, show that there is no real validity to these rumors that we're not doing the best job we can to hire the best candidates, that ultimately that's what it comes down to. I think it's important to look at our promotion rates and look if we could do better, and obviously we want to do better at that, at moving those people who are in our system up the ladder as they want, and to provide support to do that. But I think the numbers here, the total overall was, of all the 82 administrators hired since 2000, July of 2000, 66% were promoted from within. That, to me, doesn't indicate we have a severe problem of not promoting from within. Could we do better? Yes, of course. But I think the numbers looked good. I was happy with the report, and I thought it came very quickly. The motion was only 2 weeks ago. And, you know, it's clear you've got the names of the people in these positions, and I thought it was a positive report, and I think it reflects positively on our hiring practices, the fact that we do these panel reviews and people from the community are invited to participate, our unions select people to participate. I think that the hiring for the Lowell school system looks pretty good to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leary?
Thank you, and I appreciate the report, Madam Superintendent. I think there's 2 issues here that are of utmost importance. One, the bottom line. And the bottom line is, are we improving on our MCAS scores? I mean, that's really why we get over $100 million in state money. So the folks who we're hiring have to deliver. So that's the most important issue, the issue that seems to get overlooked at this point in time. The second issue is really providing the opportunity for folks to get promoted so they want to stay here, educate our children, so they can think there's a career path. So it's a persona. I mean, it's when 65%, it is a red flag to me to some extent. But I go back to my overriding issue. The bottom line is the bottom line. If our MCAS scores come out, I think they're coming out in October, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, we have the preliminary.
But the actual official results will be out in October.
Hopefully early October.
If they show improvement, I mean, real improvement, then I think that's just reflective of what we've done. If they don't show improvement, then we have more important issues. Now, the second issue regarding the 65% number, what I think we need to highlight, and just one example, and I know there's other examples, we've just have 5 new internships at the high school. 4 of them for assistant internship to housemaster. 1 of them for an internship for the athletic director. We selected 5 outstanding candidates. 3 of them, I know who they are. They're all from the system. Actually, all 5 of them from the system. 2 of them happen to live in Lowell, which is not really the relevant issue. Actually, maybe more live in Lowell. This issue is, hopefully, is going to be a twofer. One, we're showing a path for promotion. We need to be picking these people when we start looking at our administrative positions, or weeding them out because that's not what their role in life is going to be for the Lowell Public School System. So we should be highlighting these 5 people. This is something we should say. We just hired 5 people in a position for an internship to housemaster and athletic director. Not only are we going to train them, mentor them to be successful, but they're also going to assist the housemaster and the athletic director in implementing what's really important. What's really important for a housemaster is having the time to get in the classroom, identifying the problems, and correcting them and trying to prevent them so we don't have to put more money in alternative education programs, which are very important. So the bottom line is really the bottom line. So with all due respect, 65%, yeah, it's a red flag, but really, I'm waiting for those October numbers. If they go up, if it's less improvement, then I'm going to have an issue. We're going to have an issue. If they go down, if it shows improvement, then we hired the right person. And it's bottom line. That's what we need to be focusing on. Thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. I just want to, listening to my colleagues' responses, I think are really very instructive for me. As I'm looking at this, I think there's even more important good news. I mean, the idea that from within our own district, we have made these investments in individuals. We have given people opportunities to learn, to grow, to nurture their talent and their commitment to this specific district. I think when you're looking at a district of our size, with our very specific challenges and very high standards of quality that we've placed throughout at every single level and at every single hiring juncture, I think it's important that we recognize that in more than 2/3 of the cases, we have been able to grow our own talent. And I think that that's really an extraordinary thing. I think when we're looking at the kind of investment that we make in our teaching staff and our administrators, again, throughout the district in every position, at the end of the day, as I know I've discussed and as I know we've discussed in a variety of different ways, the single most important factor is having the highest quality person sitting in the seat. Whether that's a classroom at the high school or whether that's someone who's taking care of a gymnasium at one of the middle schools. I mean, it doesn't matter. The only criteria that really determines our success is that we remain focused all day, every day on having the most qualified people performing these tasks. The reality is that is what we owe our students, it's what we owe our families, and it's what we owe our community. It's the job we're here to do, to ensure that every hiring decision that's made is based on that criteria. I think it is really encouraging and exciting that in more than 2/3 of the cases, there is no one better for these positions. These high-level, challenging, very important decisions to the success of our district. In 2/3 of those cases, there is no one better than an individual that we have nurtured and that we know and that has come up through our system. And I think that's really encouraging, and I think it does speak volumes to the opportunities that are available to the many, many talented individuals who work in our district and who want to stay with our district and grow professionally within this district. So, I mean, I offer my congratulations to all of these new hires in these last 7 years, which is kind of a long time to be looking at, and say, again, with the thanks of all of us for the important work that they do and the recognition that the district as a whole has nurtured and really created these opportunities for individuals. And there is no better, there's no better thing to say than the best of the best were found right within our own district and our own cadre of professionals. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McHugh?
Thank you. I'll be brief. I think a lot has been said, and I think there really is good news here. We continue to hear, discussions about, we're not doing a good job of hiring people or promoting people from within, and I think this report finally proves that we are. It's kind of two separate numbers. You can't, use the numbers together, but 65% are from promotions. I think that's very good. I know for this committee, for the last number of years, have been working hard at this. This isn't just one person here. Everybody here has raised this issue. We had the administrative program that got cut due to budget cuts because we had to make tough choices. It's nice to see it back with an administrative intern program. And, it's not even highlighted in this report, but I talked about it before, about grow your own teachers, the paraprofessionals that have gone on, that aren't even on here. But those, to me, are just as important programs. We are doing what we need to do to take the staff that we have and make them better to a higher level position, giving them the tools, getting the training through professional development, getting the classwork at Middlesex or UMass Lowell to become teachers. I think that is important. I think we got to continue to focus on that so we can continue to monitor. But I think the numbers here show what has been going on for the last 7 years, and it is working. It's not, there seems to be, well, we don't do this, we don't hire that person or this person. This shows otherwise. You can't hire 100%. That's impossible. If you're doing that, I think the pendulum went too far the other way. Because then we, as Mr. Leary said, we're probably not hiring the best person. We should be always trying to hire the best person, because it's nice to have people come up through the ranks, but not everybody can do that. Not everybody wants to do that. So I think it's important that we get the right people in the right positions, and that we are giving some latitude to folks from within to show that they are ready to step up to the plate and take these challenges and working with them. So I think there is very good news here. I'd like to say that we continue this trend. Maybe this is something we monitor once a year, because this is really what it's about. The numbers will show what we're doing. And I think now that we can tie it to our MCAS scores, that'll show if the trend's going the right spot, that we got administrators in the right positions. If not, the superintendent will have to make those changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this report? Motion to accept the report by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next report, Madam Superintendent, on the coordinated review.
Yes, committee members asked for an update on the status of the Department of Education's coordinated review. We finally received the final copy on August 15th of their reply to our corrective action plan, and you have a report from Assistant Superintendent Murphy identifying that they accepted almost all parts of our plan, and we will be submitting quarterly reports. The first one is due November 16th. We'll keep the committee apprised of anything that may develop as a result of those.
Motion to approve the report by Ms. Faticante, second by Mr. McHugh. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The report is approved. Next report is on the status of libraries.
Yes, this was in response to a motion from the committee, Mr. Leahy, having to do with the status of the libraries. At our elementary and middle schools, our libraries are not open before or after school for staffing, but at the high school we are. And the high school library will be open before and after school. It started as of today with tutoring. They're open for 7 to 7:30, Monday to Friday, and 2:30 to 3:30, Monday to Thursdays. The library is also open Saturday mornings, 8:30 to 11:30 for students. So all of that started as of today. And you can see from the report there are some other ways that we're trying to put tutoring available for interested youngsters before and after school and on Saturdays. And there's a final paragraph in the report that indicates about the Shannon Grant. We now have gotten confirmation that the Shannon Grant dollars will make some more monies available for the tutoring for the buyback program. So we'll be able to provide a little more tutoring than is identified here. So I hope this is responsive to the motion that you had.
Mr. Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to Superintendent. The only thing I didn't like to see is the hours for the high school. From what I hear, we have to kick students out. So I really think we need to, and it's probably going to come down to money, but I don't really see it as an issue. I think that the tutoring for an hour is great, but I don't think it's going to cost us a lot of money to have one person hang around for maybe another hour. If the kids dwindle out between 3:30 and 4:30, then, if the library's empty, they go home. But I don't think we should be kicking kids out at 3:30. I think the library needs to be open till 4:30. That's my opinion, if anybody else wants to chime in. But that was the whole point of this report, and I think that we need to have the library open for another hour. So I don't know if that needs to go into a form of motion, or we just instruct the high school, to see if we can do that or how to do this. But I think there is a need for that, and I think we need to do that.
Madam Superintendent.
What I could do, Mr. Leahy, is is work with the high school to identify a sort of a feasibility plan and then bring back to you what that would cost to do it in a safe and sound way. And I can bring that to the, would you like me to bring it directly to the committee or to the Lowell High School Subcommittee?
Sure, to the committee. I mean,
All right.
I can't make the decision myself, but I do think that there is a need there. And, like I said, if we have 4 tutors there, we don't need to keep 4 tutors for 2 hours. But I think to ask for one person to be paid for an extra hour isn't asking a lot. Thank you.
I think we would probably want to have a situation where we'd have more than one adult.
Well, whatever, okay, yeah.
So we'll have to look at how to make that work so that there's more than one adult during that extra hour and how much that would, how we'd have to work that. So we'll try to develop a cost-effective plan that would be effective, safe, and come back to you when, I don't know the price tag of that, so I'll bring
sure.
it back with price tag.
Thank you.
Mr. Leary? Okay. So a motion to refer this matter back to the superintendent for further report by Ms. Doherty, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The report is accepted and referred back to the superintendent for further action. Next report on reading programs, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, committee members asked for a comprehensive report on the improvements that have been made to the reading program at elementary, middle, high school, including our alternative programs. And so you have a report on time on learning, the changes in that from last year to this, materials and instruction, materials of instruction that have been used, the assessment requirements and tools that are now in place, as well as the professional development that has been put in place to support the ongoing and urgent need to improve our reading programs so that we graduate from every level more and more skillful readers. So I'd welcome any questions.
Mr. Leahy?
Thank you. What I was actually the report's okay. What I was looking for is just a little more information on tutors. Last year we had the discussion on, we had to make cuts for the reading teachers in the schools because of Title I funds. So I think what we had done is we kind of looked at it and we said, there are restrictions, we hired more tutors. But what I'm looking for is, I had heard through the grapevine that we tried to hire more tutors this year, and what we did was we went from 20 hours a week to 18, and we were able to maybe hire a couple more tutors. That's what I would like to see in the report, is how many tutors do we actually have in the schools. And what I do see through my own experiences that I don't see in this report is, what are we doing for the struggling readers? What are we doing to assist them? Myself personally, I'd like to see, what resources are there for the parents? Who do we call to find out, is there a list of reading tutors? Do the teachers in that particular school want to tutor after school? Because there is a need for tutors, after-school programs for some of these kids that are struggling with their reading programs. Not everybody learns as fast as everyone else, so if we could just get a little more information on what we're doing with the reading teachers, reading tutors. Is there a list of tutors that parents could contact for after-school programs to help their kids catch up? And then maybe just a little more information on the, sidewalks program of the reading streets? So I was looking for that also. There is a lot of information. We're doing a lot of good things here, but basically we need to go one step further. So, thank you.
Ms. Martin?
Thank you very much. And I think actually one of the, as Mr. Leahy mentioned, I think one of the key things that is part of this, the kind of materials of instruction component that was included in this report, the whole concept of having weekly letters, weekly updates that are going home to parents to engage them in this whole process. And I think that would be a really great place for the information that Mr. Leahy's talking about should be going out. When parents have concerns, they should be, there should be a weekly communication that lets them know who to contact. So that, we want to be able to have parents have the ability to intercede early in the school year. This shouldn't be something that we only catch based on our assessments as we go through the year. Parents should be able to have an opportunity to be immediately in contact with the individuals who are working with their children. I had a quick question and then a comment. My question was, and it's mentioned a number of times throughout the report, that professional development has been offered in a lot of these areas, obviously focused on the specific curriculum choices that we've made and material choices that we've made. Do we track at all the actual participation so that we have that information? I think it's, I know that we offer it, and I know that by far there's a high number of teaching professionals who take advantage of it, and I know that they're certainly the majority. But it would be interesting to be able to track how we're able to engage our professional teaching staff with new materials and how effective that's being. My final comment was, and again, it's something that struck me throughout this report, it is so clear that we have this kind of cross-curricular approach to reading, and I think that is really impressive, and I think that it strengthens not only the reading activities that we have in place, but absolutely across all content areas. And I think that that's what really improves students' performance across the board, when you're talking about improving, comprehension and all the different aspects of reading that we talk about. It really is done by having interesting, engaging materials that go across all content areas. And I think that that's something I was really struck by as I looked through this report, talking about how, whether it was social sciences or the allied arts were included in developing the curriculum maps and all those activities. It's really very impressive that it has become so inculcated in our district that this is how we approach our learning in a very holistic and connected way, that I think each activity strengthens the other. So that was something that I think it's great that especially the initial motion that Mr. Leahy had made really led to, I think, a great report that gave us a sense of the reading activities and really much, much more. So I thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment on the report? Motion to accept the report is a report of progress by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. McHugh. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next report on crossing guards. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, you have a report, again, in response to a committee motion related to school crossing guards. You have identifying where all the current crossing guards are stationed, and Mr. Dakota's judgment that we need one more, and that he has asked the police department to conduct an audit of the current assigned locations and to prioritize, so that we make sure that all the locations that we think are the most critical really do have the traffic supervisors. So we'll keep the transportation subcommittee apprised of any developments in that. But welcome. Any questions on this report?
Mr. Leahy.
Sure. Thank you, Your Honor. This is an issue that we've brought up over the years, and this is an issue that we can work with the city council on, because over the last few years, we have trimmed our transportation budget, but we need to work with the city side of government, because, if we're going to cut, how many buses did we cut over the last couple of years? 7, maybe? I mean, maybe even 9. I mean, that's a lot of money. And to say that we can't afford, I'm not, pointing fingers, but I'm saying as a city, for us to say that we can't afford another $5,000 a week, I would imagine, for a few crossing guards, they probably only work a total of 4 hours a day. So I think that, we need to come together on an agreement on this that says we're going to save hundreds of thousands of dollars in busing. We need to come up with money for crossing guards so that the children are safe, because today they do walk longer distances to school, especially middle school, and they need to have safe intersections to walk to their school. So I would ask, I guess Mr. Dakota's working with the police department, but if the mayor had any suggestions on how to expedite this, without tying it up in another subcommittee, just,
Well, I don't think we're going to get another $5,000 a week if you,
well,
if that's what you're
I
looking for.
probably shouldn't have said that.
I mean,
but,
that's,
yeah, that was a wrong figure that I had written down here, but, right. Well, I know. But I think, any suggestions that you have to expedite this, I don't think that, one or two more crossing guards are going to break the bank here, but it is a safety issue and it needs to be addressed, so.
well, I
Any
mean, as far as
suggestions would be
expediting it
welcome.
goes, I think, the police department was down staffing this year, so it's something I think that Mr. Lang can work with the Assistant City Manager for Finance on, and I'll make
Alright.
sure he pays attention to it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion on this report?
Move
Motion
approval
to-
to accept the report.
Motion to accept by Ms. Fattacante, second by Mr. McHugh. All those in favor say
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next item is the UMass Lowell Middlesex Community College Partnership Summit. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, thank you. On I think it was Committee Member Leary's motion in the summer to directing me to convene a kind of summit of UMass Lowell, Middlesex Community College, and the Lowell Public Schools with newly appointed Chancellor Meehan and President Cowan and members of the Lowell delegation and, of course, the committee and appropriate members of the staffs of each institution to meet to look at the partnerships, the partnerships that exist, and to look at what makes the partnerships, what are the features of the partnerships that are strongest, and what are possibly the next steps in the partnership. So I've begun discussions with the President's office at Middlesex Community College and the Chancellor's office about a fall summit that will focus on the partnerships involved in getting all kids college ready, and also in ensuring that all kids have access to college when they graduate. And I wanted to just comment in relation to that, and I left something on committee members' desks right before the meeting, that UMass Lowell, Middlesex, and the Lowell Public Schools are partners in a major grant that has been secured by the state. The state is one of seven states in the country out of 29 applicants to receive an ExxonMobil grant to develop an AP, Advanced Placement Pathway, starting middle school through high school, of developing teacher capacity and student ambition to engage in the kind of rigorous academic, scholarly work that's required for successful completion of advanced placement courses. This is a $13.2 million grant to the state over a 6-year period. There'll be 5 regional centers. UMass Lowell will lead the center for the Northeast in Massachusetts, and the key initial partners are UMass Lowell, Middlesex, and then the Lowell Public Schools will be a key partner to that. So it was a very exciting announcement today of that grant, and it's this kind of partnership focused on college readiness and access for all, and looking at our system as preschool, really through college, at least through 16. I mean, I've often said, and I know committee members have said this as well, one of Lowell's amazing qualities is that you can go from preschool to PhD and never have to own a car, because you can walk to a preschool, an elementary school, a middle school, a high school, undergraduate, and graduate, all from downtown Lowell. And it's a very special quality of this community, one that I think there's a rich history of taking advantage of that, and this would be an opportunity in having this summit to try to capture what is it that makes some of those partnerships really enduring and strong, what are the features of the ones that are most powerful, creating most benefit for the partners in enabling all kids to be ready for college and all kids to have real access to college. So I wanted to just report on the planning stages of that. I've identified some potential Friday dates in the fall, and we're working on trying to identify a date that can work for the chancellor, for the president, for members of the Lowell delegation, for committee members, and I think it'll be a very, very exciting morning.
Mr. Leary.
Just thank you, Madam Superintendent. I actually talked to Dr. Don Pearson over at the UMass Lowell today, and he's very excited to continue the existing relationship that we have, in particular the Bartlett School, and the effort not only both in terms of human being hours, but also financially. I think this is something that we've already worked with our universities and our community college regarding the Bagigalupo Forum, which incidentally is having another meeting. I think it's October 27th, where there'll be another guest speaker. I think this is an area where we need to excel. And it's cool when we talk about that we can go from preschool to get our PhD in the city of Lowell, but we need to really kind of we got to we have to personalize it. We have to really come out and as a school system, I think where we need to be more, I hate the word proactive, where we need to set the agenda is saying that we're using partnerships with UMass Lowell to help educate our kids. Not only that, but help them pay for the cost of college and university. Now, again, that sounds good just saying it, but I think we need to sit down and open up that dialogue with our partners. We're already partners with them in certain areas, and we also have to look for something reciprocal for our partners. It's a partnership. It's a give and take both ways. So I'm excited. There's a lot of work to be done with it. I think if we do it right, we can be an example, not just for Massachusetts, but hopefully for the whole country. I think there's a lot of areas where we are effective, but I think there's even more areas where we're just okay, and we need to excel. So without talking for an hour on it, because you could easily do that, I'm very excited about it. I'm glad that the committee is supporting it. I'm glad that we're all on board with it, and we're going to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on this report? Motion to accept by Ms. Doherty, seconded by Ms. Fattacante. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next is the welcome book for first graders. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, retired Lowell High School guidance counselor Beatrice Hoare had brought forward a proposal 3 years ago for every first grader to receive a book of his or her own as the child starts first grade. And I'm happy to report that through the good work of Dr. Pamela Buchek, our coordinator of K-12 Reading and English Language Arts, all of our first graders are going to be receiving Stephanie Kalmanson's It Begins with an A. And I meant to bring it and share it. I apologize, I didn't bring a copy tonight. But it's a fun book, so they'll be distributed in the first couple of days of school, and an invitation to register for a Pollard Memorial Library card is enclosed in each book, so that we can, again, partner with Pollard Memorial so that we can get families into the habit of using that spectacular library that we have that's a great asset to the city. And so it's exciting. It was a elegantly simple idea that I think has just very nice touch.
Ms. Doherty.
Yes, through you to the superintendent, I'm just curious, do we know how many first graders we have? How many books are we giving out?
It's close to 1,000.
1,000.
Okay. Motion to accept the report by Mr. McHugh, second by Ms. Martin. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next is the report on the Elks dictionary giveaway. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, the Lowell Lodge of Elks, number 87, has informed us that once again they've been able to secure funding so that they can start again their program of purchasing dictionaries for every third grader in all of the public and non-public schools in the city. And I think committee members might remember that when we were able to do this 2 years ago, our staff identified a terrific dictionary, just really appropriate for third graders, a really student-friendly but very helpful dictionary for youngsters, and they were very excited to get them. And so it's very exciting to be able to do this again. And so Paul Severi of the Elks will, when we have that all, we'll bring him to the committee so that he can get proper thanks from all of us in public.
Mr. Leary, I believe
Yeah,
you're
and
a member of the
I want
Elks.
to thank you. I'm a member of the Elks and on the board of directors over there. And I want to thank Paul Savory, who's the president of the club, but also Eddie Sullivan, number 3. He's the actual individual manifesting these dictionaries. So it's something I think the Elks do a lot of good charitable work, and this is another example. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fataconte.
Thank you, Your Honor. When Mr. Leary brought the dictionaries 2 years ago for us to look at, we were supposed to give them back to him, but I absconded with mine because it was, I use it all the time. It's not only a great dictionary, but it's a fabulous thesaurus. It's got maps in there. It's got the gross national product of every country you can think of. And it was
China?
more than just a dictionary. China was there. They'll have one more gross national product. But I was going to say China, said, nah, I won't even make a joke about it. But it was a great book. So great that I kept it on my bookshelf and referred to it all the time. So our students are really lucky to be able to to have an organization like this donate a book for them to bring home. Because sometimes kids don't get books at home. And we forget that. We forget that it's important to give a child a book in first grade because some kids, some of our youngsters don't have books at home. And we forget that sometimes when we sit here and we talk about spending millions of dollars on textbooks, that sometimes children don't have books at home. So for the Elks to make this coordinated effort is really, is very good of them. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. We are very appreciative of the efforts of the Elks for doing this. So, motion to accept the report is a report of progress by Mr. Leary, second by Ms. Fataconte. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Next, there is a request to home educate children from 2 families.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Ms. Doherty, second by Mr. Leary. Roll call, please.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fataconte,
Yes?
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. McHugh,
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Next item is the personnel report, Madam Superintendent.
Yes, you have the personnel report, and I just wanted to make special mention under retirements that Headmaster William Samaras will be retiring in June after 17 years as headmaster of the high school. 43 years, he will have completed 43 years of service in the district. I know he is eager to focus on the work at hand this year. There are many initiatives underway at the high school to make it even more welcoming, engaging, and challenging, and he wants to work very hard to bring those to completion. And I want to, I know that there'll be opportunity through the year to reflect on and celebrate the headmaster's contributions to the high school and to the district and city as a whole.
Ms. Fataconte?
One thing on the new hire, I believe that our former colleague's daughter has been hired as a, is that her? As a math teacher, which is very exciting to see. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was the retirement of Mr. Samaras. I'm very disheartened to see that his name is listed on the retirement list. I know Mr. Samaras did not wish to retire at the end of the year, and I know that I believe that he wanted to stay on for another couple of years, so I'm very disheartened to see that his name is on the retirement list. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any further comments on the report? There's a motion to accept the report by Ms. Martin, second by Ms. Doherty. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. And finally, under Superintendent reports, the list of eligible teachers. Madam Superintendent?
Yes, this is your monthly report on all of the individuals who are on the list of teachers eligible to apply for and be placed in positions in the Lowell Public Schools.
Motion to accept the report by Mr. Leary, second by Mr. Leahy. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. New business, Madam Superintendent, did we have one item?
No, I think that was taken care of.
Okay. Okay, so that we do have, next item is convention conference request. There is one request. Motion approved by Ms. Fataconte, seconded by Mr. McHugh. Roll call.
Ms. Doherty,
Yes.
Ms. Fataconte.
Yes?
Mr. Leahy,
Yes.
Mr. Leary,
Yes.
Ms. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. McHugh,
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Okay, there are two communications, one from the mayor of Medford concerning standard of care for musical instruments.
Thank you, Your Honor. I got this, and I first thought, no big deal, but when you think about it, it is a big deal. What are we in fact doing to sanitize the instruments for our students? I'm not sure what we're doing currently, so maybe through you, Your Honor, to the superintendent, to Madam Superintendent?
Yes, I've asked Ms. Sanagati to,
Okay.
I've given her this communication and asked her to let me know what our current practice is
Okay.
and whether this would be an investment that would be appropriate.
Okay.
And
I
I'll
mean,
get back to the committee.
It does, when I think of how easy it is for teachers in a classroom to catch every single virus and germ that comes their way because there's 30 people facing you and sneezing on you all the time. I just think about what it's like to take a musical instrument from somebody and have it not be sanitized to the specifications that it should be. And not that I'm a germaphobe, because I think you got to eat a little dirt every day to build up some immunities, but it was something to think about. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Other discussion on this? Motion to accept the communication? and
Move approval.
Say something.
So moved by Ms. Fattacante, second by Mr. Leahy. Mr. Leahy?
Yeah, I just want to say, there's a memo in here about the signage at the Riley and Sullivan School, so I just want to say thank you. It's from the manager's office, but I know you had worked on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's first vote to accept the first communication. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then motion to accept this communication as well by Mr. Leahy. Second by Ms. Fattacante. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communication is accepted. Under professional personnel, there is one request from the United Teachers of Lowell to donate sick leave days to Brian Gabriel, a teacher at the Stocklosa
Move
School.
approval, Your Honor.
Motion approved by Ms. Fattacante, second by Ms. Doherty. Roll call.
Yeah, because that's money, 24 days. Ms. Doherty.
Yes.
Ms. Fattacante.
Yes.
Mr. Leahy.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. McHugh.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
7 yeas, approved.
Okay. Believe that concludes the agenda.
Motion to adjourn, Your Honor.
Motion adjourned by Ms. Fattacante, second by Mr. McHugh. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Meeting stands adjourned.